Because of her, we can. During NAIDOC Week, we're celebrating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women, the contribution they have made and continue to make to family, community and our nation. The theme for NAIDOC Week 2018 is Because of Her, We Can. Join the NAIDOC Week celebrations with special features on ABC TV, radio, iView and online. Because of her, we can. Find out more at abc.net.au/NAIDOC.
24 minutes to 9, ABC Radio Brisbane with Bill McDonald and Rebecca Livingston. We are really focusing on that phrase, the NAIDOC Week theme, because of her, we can. And for this woman, Aunty Heather Castledine, who is an Aboriginal cultural consultant, she has fond memories of the women in her life who have given her encouragement and invaluable insights into a way forward. She's now working with child and youth mental health, as well as in multiple community roles. But Aunty Heather, we really appreciate you taking the time to drop into the studio this morning. Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell us about one woman in your life who has really led the way for you?
There's really not just one woman. There's several women. My grandmother was Sarah Hooper, was a great inspiration to me. My mother, Thora Kent, was a great inspiration to me. Then when I came to Logan, after working in the Outback for so long, I met a wonderful lady called Betty McGrady, Aunty Betty McGrady. She's I call her my mentor today, and she helps me with what I do. Then meeting Jackie Huggins and Kerry Timms in Canberra around the leadership stuff there, and their support through everything I've did in the last 15 years here in Logan and being part of that. And a wonderful lady called Rosalie Rosidi, who I've known since about 1980. Her encouragement for me to do the kind of work I do as well has been absolutely wonderful. And from that we've developed other roles as well.
Heather, we talked to Chris Sara yesterday, who reflected and respected similarly about the role that his mother's played in his life in making him feel proud of his Aboriginality. Growing up, did you have to deal with racism? Did you ever feel self-conscious about your own heritage?
I didn't, as a child growing up and as a teenager, I didn't realise what the racism was about or why. But it's only when I reflect back on my life, I realise where the racism occurred and how it occurred. Because I was born 1956 and there was actually segregation back then in the cinemas and places like that. And you just don't realise it. It was just like, oh, you can't go and use those toilets. You have to go somewhere else. It's just, oh, you can't go through that door. You have to go through this door. And you don't realise it until much later. You realise that was segregation, but it was there. We just didn't realise it was there because it was the norm for us. It's only now, later on in life, that you reflect back and you see these things and you think, oh, that's what happened.
Well, the tables have turned a bit now. You've had influences in your life, but now you're influencing other young lives. Who are some of the people you're influencing now?
I actually, about 3 or 4 years ago, because when I first came down here to Logan, I came down because of Aunty Maureen Watson, who got me from being in a cook in an outback camp at Burke to go to university, where I became a social worker in my mid-40s. And she said to me that I had to do something for my people. And I've been thinking about that over the years as I've been learning from the elders in Logan and that about what it is I need to do. And I sort of thought, what is it I really want to do before I leave Logan and retire? And I thought, I would just like to be able to help some of these young women and their daughters and that. And with that, we formed a small group. We call ourselves PAWS, and we are Purple Amazon Women's Society.
Well, I wasn't expecting that. What?
Yeah.
Pause. PAWS, Purple Amazon Women's Society. How did you...
Well, you've got the Red Hat Red Hat Society and all the different other women's groups that are around. And I thought, well, what can we be? And I thought something like Purple Warrior Women or something. But no, the women said, no, we want to be Amazons. So that's what we became.
So tell us a story about someone who is in that Pause group and how life's played out.
Well, there's some amazing I think of them as young women, but they're not. These are mothers. One of the ladies, she has 5 children and she has developed her own fitness business, and she is such a strong person herself, and she's developed Glow Fitness. But it's also... There's another young lady, Laurel, who was a school guidance officer, who's had a hard life as well. But her and her daughter have gone on to create a dance group and have a work in Logan encouraging the kids in the schools. So I'm sort of there saying, yes, you can. Yes, we can do this. We come up with an idea and we say, well, yes, we can do that. It doesn't mean we need any financial help or anything. It's about, how can we do this?
Yes, we can, and because of her, we can. That is the theme for NAIDOC Week in 2018. You're listening to Aunty Heather Castledine. There are so many stories that we'll hear this week about trauma and overcoming challenges and success. But the reality is, Aunty Heather, there are still significant gaps for Indigenous Australians on health, on education, on work, on life expectancy. Jenny Macklin, who's announced her retirement this week, who's worked very hard in this area, really talked about the shame we should feel as a country in terms of that life expectancy gap. How do you reconcile that with some of the work that has gone into reconciliation, and yet we still struggle on practical outcomes?
With that, I reflect on my own life and the life of my mother and grandmother. My grandmother lived to be a great age, but my mother didn't. And I sort of think, well, she didn't even see her 60th birthday. So I sort of reflect on that, and I think about the fact of my own health experiences, and I think, well, I celebrate every year since I turned 60, because in reality I shouldn't be here. And it means that health expectancy, and I see we attend funerals all the time because there's so many of us and so many of our young ones are passing, whether through suicide, through health issues, or just they've run out of steam altogether. And it's a whole combination of a lot of things. I really can't reflect on the actual health status because of where I work, but I sort of think that centres like the AICS and Centre for Excellence and places like that are really, really great places. People want to go. With the health workers working within Queensland Health, they are doing a great job, but there's not enough of us. When you consider I'm the only Aboriginal health worker working in Metro South in mental health, child and youth mental health, that's a lot of children and a lot of area to cover. So, and the same all over Queensland. The amount of health workers compared to the health stats is not great. But it's a combination, as I say, there's a combination of things going on. Yeah.
So what more do you need to be doing? Is it increased staffing? Is it increased funding, increased recognition, or all of the above?
I think it's all the above, because health is reflected in people's environment, like their housing, education, and the social influences, and and the role models around them that can encourage people to aim for a better lifestyle. Because if the kids don't have that, then how can they grow and how can they bond? Because when you think about it, we're in a generation now where children for the first time are actually staying with their parents. A lot of, because of the removal stuff, you've broken those bonds, the circle of security that our children traditionally grow up with It's not just mum and dad, it's the whole family. And if that circle's broken, then you've broken the security. So some of them are going to slip through those links that are missing within their circle. And I think that's the main issue and the main problem is how can we strengthen the security around that? And, you know, children are being removed at a greater rate now than what they ever were.
Well, that's a shocking reality for us all to reflect on as well. Aunty Heather, it's a conversation of contrasts as always, but we really appreciate you taking the time to come in this NAIDOC week. Thanks so much.
No worries.
Aunty Heather Castledine, NAIDOC week's theme, Because of Her, We Can.